Welcome to this painting demo. In this demo, we'll be using the M3 method of painting to paint a landscape. I'll be using this photo as my reference image. This is a photo I clicked somewhere near Goa while I was driving, and that's why you can see the windshield edge of my car and the rear view mirror. But I am not worried about this because I'll be using this photo just as a reference and I'll be composing a painting based on that. So the M3 method comprises of basically 3 steps. First is composition based on the reference image. Then in the next step, we'll be blocking in the shapes with major colors of all the big shapes in the painting. And in the third stage, we'll be adding the details. In the M3 method, we also use just 3 colors plus white. So I'm going to use ultramarine blue, chrome yellow, this is burnt sienna, and this is Chinese white. These are all watercolors, but since we add white to it, it becomes more like gouache and less like transparent watercolor. And I'll be painting mostly opaque. And this method also uses just 2 or 3 brushes. So I'll be using just 2 brushes. One is number 14 or number 12 flat brush. And it's a synthetic brush I'll be using for majority of the work. And this is a number 6 very thin brush, round brush. And I'll be using this mainly to add details in the third step, or maybe to make the drawing a little bit clearer. And other than that, what I need is a pencil for drawing if I prefer that, or I can use a small brush to do that in the first step when I compose and draw the big shapes on the paper. So this paper is a 130 GSM watercolor paper, and I've taped the edges with packing tape. You could also use the masking tape, but I didn't find it handy, and that's why I'm using this masking tape. This basically gives clean edges at the end of the painting session. That's the reason I like to tape it all around. And the last thing what we need is a jar of water just to wash brushes and to thin the paint. So basically those are all the things what we need to make a painting based on a reference photograph, and these are the steps we will be following. And so in the next step or in the next video, I'll show you how to compose the picture, or how I compose the picture based on this photograph. So I'll be having this line instead of this line, which is pretty horizontal. I want to have it something like this. So I'm using a 4B pencil to lightly draw the shapes here. And then there'll be a mountain here. And I want to shift this big tree slightly this side so that this part of the mountain will be seen. So I want to keep this space empty. And then I'll have this big tree somewhere here. And then there'll be some shrubs here. One of the major or one of the important rules of composition is that not to have too many shapes of the same size. So I want to vary these shapes. So this is slightly smaller than this one, and these shapes are smaller than this one. And then I'll want to have this big tree here. I want to roughly draw it in. And so on. So this completes the step 1 of the painting process, which is the composition. So we have the composition done on the paper. So now we can go in the second step of block-in and add the major colors. So see you there. And let's test this color on the paper. This looks too dark for me. So I'm going to add some more white. Let's test this. Yeah, this looks okay. So now I'm going to start laying in the color. I don't want to leave any big white areas here because I can come in with the darker color of the tree trunk, but I don't want any white sky or white area to show through. I'm just leaving some white space for me to know where the tree was drawn. Otherwise, I don't need any of that white space. Now I'll start adding more white to it. So I'll make the color lighter. And since I'm mixing the color again, I need to test this whether this is lighter or darker than what I already have on the paper. So this looks good. So I'm going to lay in this color. And the sky also tends to be lighter towards the horizon. So I'll need to slightly lighten the color as I come down towards the mountain here. See that even though I am using watercolor, I am using that in the manner in which you use gouache. And basically gouache is nothing but a type of watercolor with thick body. But I am trying to use pure watercolor in the fashion of gouache. So I've made the color lighter and I want to lay that in quickly. So I want to turn this into slightly darker green or darker blue first, and then I'm going to add slight amount of yellow to it to make it green, but I still want it darker. This seems, let me make this slightly more darker, because I want this tree to be even darker than the green which I'll have for this mountain. So let me test this. I think this is, I need to add some white to it. Some more blue and some more white. Because this distance or this mountain is at a distance, it looks more bluish. So let's test this. Yeah, this seems better now. And I'll apply this to the whole mountain. And anyway, I'll come in with a darker color for these trees and shrubs. So I don't want to keep any space white for that. I'll make some variation to the color towards this side. Because this is a mountain and there are a lot of trees on that, it's not one uniform color. So I'm laying in just some patches of darker blue color just to indicate some variation in the shade. I also don't want this edge to be very sharp, so I'm just making sure the edge is slightly more blurry. So I'm rubbing my brush like this. and I want this same color to continue on this side also. Okay, now let's come to the third shape, which is the light green of the crop, and for this I need to mix a color which doesn't have a lot of white, so I'm not going to use this pool of color. I'll start with yellow and then add blue to it. Let me get some fresh yellow color. And I want to slightly change its value, so I'm adding some white to it and some amount of blue just to make it green and not completely yellow. So let's test this. Yeah, this looks good. In this area, I want to use the brush like this so that I get, and I want to use smaller brush strokes, vertically smaller, and I'll use vertically larger or longer brush strokes when I come down towards the bottom of the painting. That's because the grass here will look shorter, or because of the size or because of the distance, and the grass near me or the crop near me will look larger in size as I come down or come near the bottom of the painting. So here I might use towards the bottom, I might use the brush strokes like this. Let me add some water just to make the paint flow. And again some small shrubs here. And I'll use the same color, or maybe I can slightly darken it with blue color, because the foliage of this tree is much closer to us. So I've added more blue to it and some brown, and I'll be using this as the color for these leaves here. Slightly make it more green. And paint these leaves. Because this tree is very close to us, we can see the individual leaves, and that's the reason I'm using the small brush. Some leaves here also, and they'll be more dense towards the top of the painting because that's where the top of the tree is. And here I want to make the leaves much more darker. because they are in shadow. And maybe one or two lighter green leaves towards the bottom, or these, because they are catching more light. And I think this is it for the block-in stage. Now I'll slightly allow these colors to dry for maybe 5-10 minutes, and then I'll start adding the details. So see you in the next video. Welcome back to this third step of painting this landscape. Now this is the stage where we add the details. So I'll be very careful in looking at things. I'll add each brushstroke with a lot of deliberation, because this is the last step where we can add something and make the painting a finished piece. So the first thing what I'll do is I'll add some highlights to this mountain in the background, because it's looking too uniform or too drab. So I'm trying to use this same color, and I want to add some white to it just to make it opaque, and I'll see how it looks. So yeah, I think it needs to be slightly bluish. Yeah, this will add some amount of variation in the tone in the mountain. I won't do or overdo this. This is just an indication of some variation in the light falling, and hence how the shape looks. And I'll let this dry and see if I need to come back or adjust it. And in the meantime, I'll go and adjust or add details to these trees. So I want to add some light on this side of the trees and make this side darker. So I'll start with the light, or start with the darks first. So this side of every tree or bush will be darker because the light is coming in from this side. Again, I'm not using this color overall. I'm adding strokes of it at some places. Otherwise, it looks monotonous. I need some more of that color. And I'm applying it very thick. So that not a lot of attention goes there. And I think I need to slightly darken this area because otherwise it's not giving the contrast which it needs. So let me make a very dark thick color, almost black, but not black because these two won't make pure black, which we anyway don't want. Because this is the focal area of the painting, it needs to have that punch. And some repetition of the same color somewhere else. And I'll try to apply the same color somewhere here also, just to add some contrast. Yeah, this looks nice. And I think I have reached the end of this painting exercise. And let me slightly emphasize the shadow. Because this is a big tree, its shadow will be bigger or longer. So I'm using a very dry brush, so it's not creating a sharp edged mark. And I think I'm done. Now let's remove the tape, and then we'll be able to see the painting with the border. Always pull the tape away from the painting. And that's it. So I hope you have enjoyed the journey of this painting from this photograph or this reference photograph to the drawing which we made in the composition step, then we blocked in, and then in this step we added the details. So I hope you will try to take this photograph and then attempt to paint your own version of this painting, and will also have fun along the way. Well, thanks for watching. You can visit my website here and subscribe to my channel. Here is a video you might enjoy, and here is a playlist of more such stuff.